went down to the river Jordan, where John baptized three. When I walked the devil in hell, says Johnny baptized me. I say, roll, Jordan, roll.
On August 21st, 1831, Nat Turner and 6 other men met in the woods one last time. After finalizing their plans that had been in the making for months, they set out to their master's house, Joseph Travis. But let's backtrack a bit. Nathaniel Turner was an atypical slave, to say the least. Born in Southampton, Virginia in 1800, not only was he capable of reading and writing by the age of 4, but his intellectual capacity actually exceeded some of the most educated, privileged white children of the country. He grew up under very religious conditions and was very well versed in Christian beliefs and practices. At some point, his intellect and his faith shook hands when he realized that God had given him these qualities of an incredible leader for a particular reason. In 1830, a man by the name of Joseph Travis purchased Turner and brought him to another plantation in Southampton, Virginia, a plantation area whose enslaved laborers made up the majority of the county population. Despite what many believe, Turner actually thought highly of his new owner, stating that Travis was a kind master who had placed a great deal of confidence in Turner. Despite the decent treatment from his new master, Nat Turner awaited his next message from God, which he believed would consist of God's approval to rebel. On February 11, 1831, while witnessing a solar eclipse, Turner received his third and final message from God, signaling him to initiate an uprising by utilizing the sheer amount of slaves in the area and by taking the weapons of their owners. Turner began planning the rebellion, taking nearly 7 months to ensure everything was in place. On the morning of August 21, 1831, while asleep, the entire Travis family was killed by Turner and his men. They continued on from house to house, killing every white person, men, women, and children. As they moved on, Turner was joined by about 70 more slaves, and even freed blacks on horseback, eager for vengeance. By the time they did decide to move on to the next town, Jerusalem, the word of the rebellion had gotten out to the white men. They were met in Jerusalem by a militia, who captured few of the rebels while the rest escaped. Turner was one who escaped, but was later found, hanged and skinned. Nat Turner's rebellion was one of the bloodiest and largest rebellions in American history. It triggered a state of fear in Virginia that eventually spread to most of the other southern states. Almost immediately after the rebellion, slave owners tightened their grips on slave populations, causing them to grow even more rebellious and further stirring the pot that Turner had left behind. Nat Turner's rebellion inspired many free black families to move northward, spreading his ideals about the importance of education. Even white teachers, most famously Thomas J. Jackson and Mary Smith Peake, chose to violate laws by teaching slaves how to read and write. Freed men and Northerners considered the issue of education and helping former slaves gain literacy as one of the most critical in the post-war South. Nat Turner was not an inherently violent man. He was simply a well-educated, extremely religious man who realized that he could utilize his skills to open the eyes of both his fellow slaves, who often did not even ponder the idea of racial equality, and many white citizens, both in the North, who realized they could promote anti-slavery movements to gain the support of a demographic that, in turn, could help them defeat the Southerners, and in the South, who realized that, as economically prosperous as the idea of slavery had the potential to be, they needed to be cautious as the number of slaves began to greatly outnumber the number of people who could stop them from staging a rebellion like Turner's. The occasional slave rebellion was nothing Southern plantation owners and laws could not handle, but this particular rebellion created by this particular man ignited a chain of slave rebellions that would eventually prove too great for the South and changed the course of American history forever.